Hey traders, investors, and stock market enthusiasts, it's your boy Jerremy Alexander Newsome, your cerebral pyromaniac. I'm ready to get your brain fired up with this edition of a real life trading video. Enjoy. Thanks so much for watching. You rock. Hey traders from around the world, what is going on? It's me, Jerremy Alexander Newsome with reallifetrading.com. Hope you're doing marvelously, majestically, stupendously wonderful. It is Monday, and I hope you had a great weekend. Looking at the SPY today, not all that much happening realistically. Yeah, we're down 0.5%, and yes, this could theoretically turn into a double top. But what we're doing right now on the SPY is this is a retest gap, and we are retesting. Now, granted, this is a little bit of evening star reversal for sure, and the volume did kind of increase today. So my thought is on the on the SPY, if we take out the low of today and kind of trade back down to 286.59, probably be looking at a dip buy opportunity. So that will turn into like a little bit of a channel potentially on the daily. So I kind of zoom in and watch that pretty close on the hourly. So here's the hourly chart. Turn the extended hours on, and you can kind of see that that's a little bit of the channel that we're in. So it's going to be a ways to go, but down here around this 286.50 price range, some point this week might be looking at buying a little bit of a dip down to that support. Other than that, on the daily chart, that's really all I got. Obviously, if SPY closes below 286.59 and maybe retest, then might be a small downturn coming. Usually and historically, September and October can be weaker months. And if we do trade lower, I'd probably anticipate like 282 something based on this trend line. All right, trade down to the trend line. I mean, of course, it could get more gnarly than that, but here's the weekly, and the weekly candle, I mean, you have an inside week. Only one day is closed. So yeah, I could see us trading down to that 286, the low 286s, high 285s sometime this week, and then bouncing. It makes sense to me that we do that. Maybe we don't, and if we don't, you know, no big deal. Don't have any positions short term on the SPY. Here's the IWM. So IWM down 1%. Again, just hanging out, chopping around, doing its thing. Here's the Dow Jones ETF, the DIA, and it's down pretty small. And the Qs were down actually decently well today. Another slightly bearish day on the tech market. Looking like it could form a little bit of a double top. The highs of these two candles almost the same, so almost forming that double top. And what is, sorry, not double top, tweezer top. What is interesting is with these candles, you did have a bullish gap and go from Wednesday to Thursday, and we've already filled that gap super fast. So that says to me that if we do get a close, you know, at some point soon below this neckline on the Qs, we could have a little bit of a bearish move towards the late end of September, early October. And I kind of, in a way, hope that this is what happens. I'd love to see a little bit of a sell-off on the market coming to the end of October, something like this, so that we could get that Santa rally. That'd be wonderful. I'm totally pumped and amped if that happens. We'll find out if it does. I'll get stopped out on a thing or two if that does occur, but I don't think that's really that stressful of a situation. Here's the weekly, and again, the weekly, overall the trend is still bullish, so I would be almost without question looking at buying the dip. So let's look at some of the stocks that you all requested for today's real life stock review. And here's BILI, BILI. Here's the daily chart. And BILI, for the most part, just hanging out right now. You have a nice little support resistance right about here. You do have some higher lows right there, and you got a little bit of a resistance right in here. This could be a flag pattern that we're building over the last 3 days. It did have a very nice S-curve as you pulled down into and kind of retested that retest gap. I did try to go bullish. Well, let me rephrase it. We didn't try. We went bullish on BILI on a pullback on one of these days right here and got stopped out right there. Because again, it was retesting, just retested moving averages and didn't bounce. Just kind of pulled back a little bit farther than I wanted to hold on to it. So BILI, pretty sideways. Nothing amazing that I like right now. But I can see a little bit of a pattern like this and a little bit of a pattern like that. So if we do get a good breakout, I mean, I do like the bullish volume, so I'm keeping an eye on a bullish pop, and if it happens, I don't think I'm going to miss it. Here is MYSZ. Was also requested MYSZ. This is on the NASDAQ exchange, and this one had a little bit of a pop, as most of these cheaper penny stocks with not amazing volume. You normally get a day or two of a breakout, and then get some those selling. So here's the weekly, and it hasn't been around all that long. This is a stock that just recently survived, and yeah, I mean, I would be watching this one. It did not quite close above the 50 EMA and hold, so it closed above there technically on Friday, but immediately today is retested. So if I was looking at playing this one personally, I'd probably zoom in here to the hourly chart. The good news is it's not super expensive, so it's relatively easy to protect yourself on this one. This one looks like, to me, it's going to pull back a little bit farther. This looks like a bull trap. Some people playing that S-curve, and they bought in bullish, and then it popped, and some people took the breakout, only for it to fade back lower. So I think if you're looking at playing this one, you could probably get it at $1. And I like playing, if I play a stock like this, I usually play it with absolute zero, meaning if it pulls back into $1 and I can get it for $1, I go, what's the worst case? All right, worst case scenario, it goes to 0. So my risk is $1 on this. And that's kind of how I calculate my shares. Whatever that risk is, so a $500 R would be 500 shares, cost $500. And again, if it goes to 0, great. You lose an R, and if it doesn't, how high could this go? Sky's the limit, right? Technically. And that's a way that you could play this one. Other than that, I don't really know specifically what NYSZ does. Sounds like one of those weird infomercials you get on the History Channel like at 2 in the morning. So that's NYSZ. Next on the list is Etsy. This was requested, ETSY. And Etsy just made new all-time highs just yesterday. So a lot of people selling to lock in those profits. Here is the weekly chart. And again, Etsy is just screaming. So if you're in Etsy bullish, just make sure to protect yourself up here. I do like the bullish trend. I do think it'll continue, but you certainly want to do your best to buy dips on this one. Mostly because the last few times we broke out into a new all-time high, there, or there, we have pulled back. Even here, we had to pull back on it there, 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 pull back on it there, pull back on it there. So really the last few times that Etsy's made a new all-time high, it's retraced, right? So look at a stock, see what it does previously, and use that history to help you craft an idea for the future. Here's a nice little support resistance. I'd probably like to, if I was going to trade Etsy, down around the 45 region. This is a good pullback though, right? So this is a little bit of a pullback into these averages. So if you're buying Etsy, you probably are tiptoeing in a smaller position up here, just because, again, it is an all-time high. Unless, of course, you're doing something shorter term, like an hourly chart. And if you're playing this on the hourly, and your setup was, entry around the let's say around the 50 EMA. So you got this 1, 2, 3. If this is the wave 4, then you probably bought somewhere on this pullback, and your stop was maybe down here somewhere. So potentially you increase that stop to here, lose a little bit less than an R, and then just fingers crossed to see if the buyers come in and press Etsy a little bit higher. That's my thoughts on ETSY. Here is Camping Worldwide, CPWH on the daily. Decent little sprout of volume. Here is the weekly chart. Now what's cool about this one is Camping World has sold off from 46 down here to 20. That's 50% any way you slice it. And we are getting back to a previous support down here. So yes, there's a lot of people watching Camping World to continue bullish, kind of off of this double bottom. It's all going to come down to time frame on this one, because the longer and the longer amount of time that you have, then yes, the more likely you have that this one can slowly recover, and eventually you'd be right on it. But this is a big gap on a weekly chart. So on the daily, got a decent amount of volume. It is a retest gap. So what I would personally like to see is, either A would be this setup with a sideways movement, or B would be this setup, boom, boom, something like that. We're a little bit more patient on it. So let me just kind of craft that on the chart. Come back over here. So this would be a bullish stop limit, right, to catch the breakout, or to catch the, since it's a limit, stop limit, not a stop market, you're kind of catching the retest of that. And then I would ask it to trade sideways 1 to 2 days before taking the pop higher. That would be setup number 1. And then setup number 2 would be buying pretty much that pullback there and then buying the rest here and then putting a little bit of a lower stop. So bullish limit buy for half an R, something like this. Come over here, that's what, 2010. So half an R of risk on that because again, you're buying into an accumulation area. So it's going to usually take a little bit for it to really bounce. Here would be the other half an R. Okay, so there's your other half an R of risk right there. And then the stop would just be decently kind of far away where you know at that point, yeah, it's kind of going a little bit lower. So there'd be a stop. So there's 2 ways to play it. All right, so if it trades sideways, then you can take the pop higher. And if it doesn't trade sideways for 2 days and starts retesting lower, I do like the volume. I do like the location on a weekly chart. And I agree that this is most likely the spot that you're going to be keeping an eye out for on that particular trade. So that's camping worldwide, wide. Next 2 on the list are pretty common requests recently. Netflix, NFLX down 4% today, hitting a really, really nice resistance. I was talking about this one a lot on this particular day and this particular day, saying, hey, just guys, be really, really careful while it trades up here, you know, and specifically same thing with over here. Just a level that I do still think Netflix trades down to 300 before earnings. I could be mistaken on that, but Netflix will be in a choppy kind of environment for a while. So you want to buy it as low as you can and sell it as high as you can. Today's candle looking a little on the bearish side. So my overall thought and process on this one is look for maybe a little bit of a retest, something like this and something like this, because you have had 3 bearish candles in a row. Here's the long-term moving averages, and you're below the 100. So, yeah, I think Netflix is going to be a smidge more on the bearish side for right now, at least for a little bit. And then BABA down pretty nicely today. Another good gap down. So this is the filling of this retest gap that occurred from the 12th to the 13th. Gap down today, pretty decent gap as well. Here's the 5-minute chart. And I didn't day trade this one at all today, but it did show an opportunity or two. Right here's a nice little S curve. You got that high wave bullish candle right there. Might have been able to take an entry below that and below that. But realistically, just moved kind of out the gate at the open. First 3-minute chart, you could have gotten something on it, but you can see not a really super clear setup. That's, you know, which is a lot of those trades today. The only day trade I played today was Twitter, TWTR, and you can see how I play that one. If I go even just to a 5-minute chart, you'll see it's my favorite candle, bullish high wave candle and a gap down, entry, stop, and then eventually got trailed out over here for a super small gain. So that was really it on Twitter. I mean, small gain, some decent, okay gaps, but the rest of the things out there are just kind of churning and burning. Tomorrow's going to be Tech Giant Tuesday. Really interesting day to review and look over some stocks in the afternoon swing trading room. Twitter, I think this is a nice gap on Twitter. We did have and do have a bearish swing trade setup on it. It might not actually trigger, but this is a retest gap. So I'm going to leave this open for 2 or 3 more days to see if Twitter trades back up to 29.81 and then potentially rolls over. Ladies and gentlemen, just as a reminder, hope to see many of you tonight from 7 to 8 p.m. Central Standard, which is 8 to 9 Eastern. And we're going to be simply discussing and talking about how a company that Real Life Trading is partnered with, Top Step Trader, how they can help you, for those who trade futures and or Forex, give you the ability to fund traders. They take all the risk. So it's their money. They take up the risk, and you keep the first $5,000 in profit and 80% of every dollar you make after that. Pretty sweet stuff. Really cool. Discussing and talking how to not risk any money and your own money. And the guy who's doing the main presentation tonight is this gentleman who was a trader in the Chicago Mercantile Exchange for over 10 years. Pretty sweet stuff. A lot of interesting insight. Excited to see you there. That's tonight. That's free. I will be recording it, but do your best to show up if you want. Anyway, this is the link, and this will also be in the description box below and your email that you received this video from. Folks from around the world, thanks so much for tuning in. You're amazing. You're incredible. Thank you for helping us enrich lives, and I will see you all later. And until then, love life, live life, and trade it. Bye.